Good morning. This is Robin from Hope from the Well. So glad to be here today with Miss Julie.
Good morning.
And we're just getting real excited because in just a few days from now is our banquet, November the 6th. And so if you have not gotten a ticket for our banquet, this will be our 26th year celebration. We celebrated our 25th year last year. And so it will be at Woodward Church of God, and so you can get tickets. Just give us a call here at Women at the Well, or we have been running Facebook ads about that our banquet's coming up. So if you want to get a ticket, give us a call here at 423-745-0010. And we are going to be having a whale sale at Rebecca Hutzel's CPA office there on Congress Parkway. It will be October the 30th and 31st. I believe that's correct, or it might be, no, I'm sorry, 31st and November the 1st. Those 2 days. We're doing it at a little different location this time. So out on Congress Parkway, come in. We'll probably get there we'll start at 8 or probably 9. Probably 9. And so just come out. We'll have good stuff like we always do at our well sales. And that's one way that you can support Women at the Well. And is there anything else coming up that I'm leaving out, Miss Julie?
Not that I can think of. I mean, we do have some upcoming things, but nothing probably this year.
Okay, yeah, we do. We have some on our calendar. We've got lots of things on our calendar, and God is doing awesome work up here in the lives of the ladies here at Women at the Well. And one of our speakers will be at the banquet, Jennifer Craig, one of our past graduates. And if you know Jennifer, you'll want to hear what God has been doing in her life since she's graduated. So that's something to look forward to, and you'll hear testimonies as well from our ladies. And we are going to have some really nice silent auction and auction items. We have quilts that have been specially made for this banquet, and so we're looking forward to that.
And if there's anybody out there that would like to donate, we still have, baskets that are available. If you would like to help put in on some of those, we could definitely use your help. And if you are wanting to come to Rebecca Hutzel CPA, it is 518 Congress Parkway. It's not too far down from Planet Fitness. If you just keep going that direction.
Yeah. Same side of the road as Planet Fitness. So we're looking forward to that, and hopefully the weather will be good, and we can have our sale that day. Well, today I'm going to be talking to you all about what to do when you're in exile. And this is coming from a Bible study that I'm doing called, actually the staff is doing it together, called Take Courage. And this was on session 2. And it's such a good lesson. I wanted to share it with you all. But the Bible study is about the book of Haggai and how they were going back to start building the temple. God had let them come out of exile back into their hometown, and they were of Jerusalem to rebuild the temple, and just some of the challenges that they met during that time. But before that, they were taken into exile, which is in Jeremiah 29 and starting in verse 1, where this is a letter from Jeremiah, the prophet Jeremiah, that was still in Jerusalem. He was sending this letter to the surviving elders of the exile and the priests, the prophets, and all the people who Nebuchadnezzar had taken into exile from Jerusalem to Babylon. So they were taken out of their home country into Babylon, into captivity. And so he's telling these the queen mother, the eunuchs, the officials of Judah, and Jerusalem, the craftsmen, the metal workers had departed from Jerusalem, and this letter was sent by hand to them from Jeremiah, from the word of the Lord. It says, "Thus says the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, to all the exiles whom," and this is one that I circled, this word right here, God had sent them into exile. Who I have sent into exile from Jerusalem to Babylon. Build houses and live in them, and plant gardens and eat the produce. Take wives, have sons, daughters, and take wives for your sons, and give your daughters in marriage, that they may bear sons and daughters, and multiply there, and do not decrease. But seek the welfare of the city from where I have sent you into exile. And there's that word, I have sent you again. And pray the Lord on its behalf, for in its welfare you will find your welfare. And so, very popular verse there we hear, go down to Jeremiah 29:11. It says, for I know the plans that I have for you. And this is where he says, when the 70 years are complete, I will visit you, and I will fulfill to you my promise, and bring you back to this place. So just remember that they were going to get to go back. For I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord, plans of welfare and not evil, to give you a future and a hope. And so that's a very popular verse that we quote many times. So all of us in our lives have times and seasons of what we feel like is exile, taken out of our normal daily life into another situation. And that could be, we're taken out of our life because out of our normal life because a job, a change of job, a relationship, but everyone can be in a season of exile at some point in their life. And so how does exile feel? A lot of times being in exile feels like you're being disciplined, yes. Or it feels like isolation, it's lonely, could be fearful, there might be a lot of anxiety attached to that. So the word of the Lord was sent from Jeremiah in a letter, and it was hand delivered to those in exile. I like that because God says he sent them into exile. However, he didn't forget about them. That's right. He wasn't going to forget about them. This letter was encouraging them that, hey, I'm still with you. I'm going to be with you, and here's what I want you to do. So, how we experience exile a lot of times is it can be geographically. We can be moved from one familiar place to a new place, which could be a new job, a new school, to a new town, to a new church. A lot of different situations can cause you to have to move from one area to another that's unfamiliar. I remember when I was in the 4th grade, my parents moved from Etowah to Englewood. But I had to, that's not that far, but I had to completely learn, the new school at Englewood. I had new friends and all of that. And that was a time that as a little kid, I remember thinking, I was lonely and didn't know anyone, and there was a lot of anxiety. So, geographically, there can be a change. And then sometimes you just feel invisible. You feel like you're in exile, and you're surrounded by all your normal people that's around you and have your normal life. Yet sometimes we can feel isolated and lonely in a room full of people. So sometimes that happens to us. And then in relationships, someone may be going through a divorce, or a friendship that you've had for a long time may have ended for one reason or another. Or you like move churches and you're in a new surrounding there. You have family issues maybe that has caused you not to be around the people that you normally were. Or situational things could happen to you, like with our ladies, some of them have been in jail. That most definitely feels like exile. Or even coming to women at the well, even though it's the best thing for them to get better from their addiction, but it can still feel like they're in exile. And so when we are followers of Jesus, there is always going to be a purpose for our exile. He never leaves us without purpose. And I like that 29:11. He said, even though they were going into captivity, God's still saying, my purpose for you is good and not evil.
That's right.
And I would be thinking, well, being taken into captivity, into Babylon, away from my familiar, is doesn't feel good. It feels evil. But God says that's not his purpose in all of that. So anytime that you are in exile, there is that purpose. So besides having all these things happen to you, you can still receive healing that you need during this time, and we're going to talk about some of the results of your exile. In Hebrews 12, I found this verse that I really, as I was studying this, that really spoke to me. It says, "Therefore, lift your drooping hands and strengthen your weak knees, and make straight the paths of your feet, so that what is lame may not be put out of joint, but rather be healed." And I believe that many times in our exile, or times that we feel like we're in exile, that's what God is doing. He's making our lame parts of us that are not working properly, not the way that it should be. He's changing all of that so that we can be stronger and healed from whatever is going on in our life. So many times discipline is part of that. It's when we are going through exile, we feel like we're being disciplined. So the purposes, let's look at some of the purposes that God may have for exile. Well, one is discipline. As I read in Hebrews 12, God's purpose could be to discipline us or correct us for something that is wrong in our life. And that's another thing. The Lord wants to correct us, not to hurt us, but to help us and to make us better. And one other thing that can happen during exile, or a purpose of exile, is to prune us. This time of year is the fall, and I don't know anything about gardening, but I know people out there listening may have some knowledge about gardening. But don't you prune back the old, everything back, so that next year you will have a more beautiful plant, or you'll produce more fruit. And that's what God has to do in us many times. Sometimes our exile is about getting rid of the old so that the new can come in its time. And we tell our ladies here at Women at the Well, you cannot hold on back here to behind you of the old things and reach forward to the new thing that God has for you. You've got to let go to go forward. So many times we're getting pruned during our exile. And another thing that happens is God is proving us. Sometimes our exile is to improve us in some sort of area in our life. Yes. And so what practices should you do while you're in exile? Well, in Jeremiah 29, verse 7, it says, while they were there, I'm going to start with verse 5. Here's what they were supposed to do. Build houses and live in them. Plant gardens and eat the produce. Take wives and sons and daughters, and take wives for your sons. And then down in verse 7, it says, but seek the welfare of the city where you've been sent. And it also says, do not decrease, but increase during your time. So when you are in exile, you're to participate with what God is doing during that time. Don't fight against it. And many times we tend to want to fight against what God is doing.
Definitely.
He told them to build something. You're going to build something. You know what? We're almost out of time today. So I'm going to pick up there for next week, and we will go back and talk about the practices that we do in exile next time. And we'll pick up there in verse 7 of Jeremiah 29, 7. We'll pick up there next week and talk more about what we do when we're in exile. So remember, we're so glad that you tuned in to us today. And remember, if you have Jesus, you always have hope.